The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the quiet of a room. The kind of silence that presses against your ears until you realize there is no air to carry sound. Then I noticed the flowers. White lilies. Too many of them. The smell was heavy, sweet, almost suffocating. And then I saw the photograph. It was me. Not an old picture. Not a childhood one. A recent photo. The one from my sister's wedding last year. I remember wearing that navy dress. I remember laughing when someone spilled champagne. But in the frame, I wasn't laughing. I was memorialized. I was dead. People sat in rows of chairs. Heads bowed. Hands folded. Some crying. Some staring forward. Blank. I tried to speak. No sound. I tried to move. Could. But no one saw me. I walked closer to the casket. It was closed. Good, I thought. I don't want to see that. My mother sat in the front row. Her shoulders looked smaller than I remembered. She clutched a tissue so tightly her knuckles were white. I should have called her, she whispered to my aunt. I should have insisted she come home that weekend. I wanted to tell her it wasn't her fault. But I didn't know what it was. I didn't remember dying. That part terrified me most. The priest spoke gently about how sudden everything had been. An accident, he said. What accident? My heart began racing even though I wasn't sure I had one anymore. I searched the room. My friends were there. Some of them crying harder than I expected. Some of them checking their phones discreetly. I felt anger at that. How dare they scroll through messages at my funeral? Then I realized, this is what people do. Life keeps moving, even when you don't. I turned toward the back of the room. There he was, Daniel, my boyfriend. He stood apart from everyone else. Not crying, just staring at the casket. Frozen. He hadn't shaved. He hadn't slept. I stepped closer. You didn't text me back that night, he said quietly, as if speaking to himself. I thought you were mad. My stomach dropped. What night? Memories flickered. An argument. Voices raised. Me grabbing my keys. Driving. Rain. Headlights. A sharp turn. And then, nothing. The room blurred. The priest's voice faded. The lilies smelled stronger. I realized something. This wasn't just a funeral. It was a replay. Not for them. For me. I moved toward the casket again. My reflection shimmered faintly on its polished surface. You left angry, a voice said behind me. I turned. No one stood there. But the voice was clear. You left without saying you loved him. I shook my head. That's not fair. It's not about fair. The air felt heavier. You don't get to choose when your last words happen. I looked at Daniel again. His jaw clenched tightly. I would give anything to take it back, he whispered. And suddenly I understood. This wasn't punishment. It was perspective. I walked down the aisle, past my friends, past my coworkers, past the life I thought would continue next week. Outside the chapel doors, everything was white, not bright, just blank. You can stay, the voice said. Or, I asked, or you can wake up. Wake up. My chest tightened. I turned back one last time. At my mother. At Daniel. At the version of me framed in flowers. I'm sorry, I whispered, and then everything shattered. I opened my eyes. Air rushed into my lungs painfully. Beeping machines. Bright hospital lights. A voice yelling for a doctor. Daniel's voice. She's awake. My body felt heavy. My head pounded. Tubes. For lines. Bandages. You were in an accident, someone said gently. I turned my head slightly. Daniel was there. Eyes red. Face pale. You scared me, he whispered. Tears slid down my temples into my hair. I'm sorry, I managed to say. He leaned closer. For what? For leaving angry. His breath caught. You don't get to leave like that, he said, his voice breaking. And for the first time in my life, I understood how fragile later really is. Because sometimes you don't get to watch your own funeral. Sometimes you just become it. And if you're lucky, you wake up before the flowers arrive. The doctors said I was lucky. They always say that. Lucky the truck swerved. Lucky the airbags deployed. Lucky someone called an ambulance fast enough. Lucky my heart didn't stop for longer than it did. But no one tells you what comes after luck. The machines were removed one by one. The beeping slowed. The room became quieter. Too quiet. Daniel never left. Even when I drifted back to sleep, I felt his hand around mine, as if letting go would undo everything. "You were unconscious for 2 days," he told me later. "2," I whispered. He nodded. "They weren't sure." He didn't finish that sentence. "They weren't sure I would wake up." I stared at the ceiling tiles. White squares. Fluorescent lights. Sterile smell. For 2 days I had been somewhere else. Watching. Listening. Understanding things I hadn't understood before. "I saw my funeral," I said quietly. Daniel tried to smile. "Pain meds." "No," I insisted. "I saw you." His expression shifted. "What do you mean?" "I saw you standing in the back. Not crying. Just frozen." His jaw tightened. "I wasn't frozen," he said softly. "I was terrified." Silence filled the room. "Daniel," I said slowly, "if I hadn't woken up, what would your last memory of me be?" He didn't answer immediately. "Our fight," he finally admitted. The word hung in the air like something fragile. We had argued about something small, something forgettable. Dishes, plans, work stress. I couldn't even remember the details anymore. But I remembered the feeling. Pride, stubbornness, walking out because I wanted to win. "You didn't answer my message," he said quietly. I swallowed. "I didn't want to." "I know." He looked down at our hands. "I thought we'd fix it the next day." That word again. Later. Next time. Tomorrow. The doctors told me recovery would take weeks. Broken ribs. A concussion. Stitches. But what no one prepared me for was the emotional aftermath. The way every argument suddenly felt dangerous. The way every goodbye felt heavier. The way silence no longer felt harmless. When I was finally discharged, the world looked different. Not visually, but in weight. Sunlight felt sharper. Traffic louder. People more fragile. Daniel drove slowly, like the road itself might betray us. That night, lying in my own bed, I couldn't sleep. 2:13 a.m. 2:14. 2:15. Every minute felt borrowed. "You awake?" he whispered. "Yeah." He shifted closer. "Me too." We lay there in the dark. "I was so angry that night," I admitted. "Me too," he said. "But I don't even remember why." He let out a small, tired laugh. "Neither do I." That scared me more than anything. That something could almost end everything, and not even be worth remembering. "I don't want our last words to be stupid," I whispered. "They won't be," he said firmly. "How do you know?" "Because we're not going to leave like that again." He turned toward me fully. "We can fight," he said. "We can disagree. We can get frustrated. But we don't walk away angry. Not like that." Tears slipped down my face again. "Deal," I whispered. In the weeks that followed, something subtle changed between us. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just intentional. We said, "I love you," even after small arguments. We paused before storming out. We didn't assume tomorrow was guaranteed. And sometimes, when I closed my eyes at night, I could still see the lilies, still smell them, still hear my mother's voice. It didn't feel like trauma, felt like a warning, a gift wrapped in fear. One afternoon, months later, Daniel asked quietly, "Do you ever think about it?" "My funeral?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah." "What do you think?" I looked at him carefully. "I think it wasn't a vision of death." "It wasn't." "No." I squeezed his hand. "It was a rehearsal." "For what?" "For appreciating being alive." He exhaled slowly. "You scared me enough for a lifetime," he muttered. I smiled faintly. I scared myself too, because sometimes you don't need to die to understand what matters. Sometimes you just need to almost disappear and realize who would still be standing in the back, waiting for you to come back.